Hello again, everybody. This is Mr. Everything, and I'm coming at you with a wargaming and miniature video. In this video, we're going to be discussing black powder. Now, what we're going to be talking about is my personal opinion and my first impressions, and I'm going to review the rules about black powder to kind of give you what I think about these rules. I know that there's been a lot of things said about these rules, and I'm going to kind of give you my opinion and what I think. Also, I'm not going to go super in depth on the rules in this video. I am creating a tutorial series of how to play this game, which will probably go up online this week as well, at least the first video, and we'll go through 10 videos explaining all the aspects of the rules and how to play. And those videos should be pretty short because I'm making 10 of them. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start talking about black powder. Just looking at the book. Just looking at the book, you're seeing that it's a hardback book from Warlord Games. It's put together really well. Lots of color pictures. Lots of easy to read explanations of the rules. It seems to be very nice on the outward appearance. So now let's talk about black powder a little bit. If I go on a tangent and I start talking about Napoleon's battles or Grenadier or any of these other games that involve this time period, understand that I am basically comparing this game to other games that I've played in the same period, like the same genre. So, I mean, that's what I've got to go on. I'm a longtime Napoleon's Battles player. I've been playing Napoleon's Battles since first edition back in the, what was it, the 80s, the 90s, whenever Napoleon's Battles came out. Late 90s, early 80s, or late 80s, early 90s. It came out as an Avalon Hill game, right? It was... yeah, Napoleon's Battles, when it first came out, was an easy rule set. It basically took all the numbers, all the complications that you would have seen in other games like Shaco or System 7 or... well, there was another game I remember playing that we had to count bullets. You know, so... it basically took the Napoleonic period and it made it playable for me. It basically made the game, I could put figures on the table, I could have friends play, we could play big battles and not take all day. We could do Waterloo in one day, basically. With these other systems, you could barely do a battle around Hougoumont in all day, you know, so... I was excited about that because I felt like that I wanted to be able to do these massive battles in a quick amount of time, and that's why I got into Napoleon's Battles. So I picked a period that had a large battle in it, which just happened to be Waterloo, and then I started collecting miniatures over the course of a few years and painting them for Waterloo in 15mm. And that game served me well for a long time. And then I went to a convention and I got excited about a game called Grenadier. We played some American War of Independence at Historicon, and I think it was 2012, I think, or something like that. It was a few years ago. But it was larger figures, 28mm, and it was a smaller battle. First of all, it's American War of Independence, and all the battles are pretty small, but it was a smaller battle, and I found that I really enjoyed the fact that it was bigger figures. It was more visceral, like I could feel the units moving, and it seemed more tactical. So it wasn't like a grand strategy game where I was moving cores around the table. I was moving companies, you know, and so I felt more connected to the game. So I went out and bought Grenadier, and that's where I got all my American War of Independence based for, was for Grenadier, and we played some Grenadier battles, and that was fun. But Grenadier, the rules set, was just a little bit too abstract. It just a lot like Napoleon's battles. It was just too abstract. So I've always been on the market for something that could fulfill that American War of Independence niche, right? So I discovered Black Powder. I said, oh, Black Powder sounds like a pretty cool game, you know, so let's take a look at it. And I've already been playing Bolt Action, and Bolt Action was a super fun. I mean, it's like man-to-man World War II game. So I was like, man, Black Powder, same company, you know, same idea and all that. And then I found out that Hail Caesar was an option. Those are all my Hail Caesar figures right there on the bottom shelf. Romans and Carthaginians and Prussians and, or I'm sorry, Persians and like where are they at? My Macedonians and stuff like that. And I was like, you know what? That'll be super fun. And then I found out that Black Powder and Hail Caesar, the rule set were modeled after each other. They were very similar mechanically. So I got them both. Played a few games of Hail Caesar. Really liked that game. Hadn't played Black Powder until just a few nights ago. And wow, everybody around the table really enjoyed these rules. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to give this set of rules an A+, because of these reasons. Now, we haven't really gotten into the book and what's inside the book and everything, but just giving you a little heads up, a little preemptive strike, it played quickly. We played the entire battle of Freeman's Farm in 4 hours. And that was after having to teach them how to play. I spent probably 30 minutes to an hour teaching everyone around the table how to play, and then we played the whole game in less than 3 hours top, so a grand total of like maybe 4.5 hours. Because it took me about 30 minutes to an hour to set up the game. So in a 5-6 hour period, I had set up, taught them how to play, we played the game, and then we cleaned up. I was super impressed with that. And so that got the juices flowing. I already have American War of Independence, but I also have Napoleonics, and I thought, you know, I could play some Napoleonics in this game set, because this actually covers multiple genres, anywhere from like French and Indian War, Zulus, Napoleonics, American War of Independence, you know, the Civil War, American Revolutionary War stuff. So yeah, you depending on if it's got muskets in it, pretty much, you could jump into this game and you could play. Doesn't need a whole lot of figures. Yes, armies will be expensive. In my tutorial, I'm doing a tutorial series towards the end where I have my last video is putting it all together. I will explain to you how you could save some money on figures and basing and things like that. But you can, if you want to play in 28mm, you don't have to. You can play 15s. You can play 6mm. You can play 54mm if you want. You can play whatever millimeters you want. You just have to adjust the basing and the ranges. You don't even have to adjust the ranges if you don't want to. You can, but if depending on your table size, this does require a large table. You need to have more than a 4x6 table to play this. A 4x8 would probably be okay, but better would be like a 6x12, okay? Because you're looking at big figures that can move really far. Now, we're not going to go into all the details of how to play this game, just why I think it's a good game. Some topics that I'm going to tell you why I think it's a good game. I'm going to zoom into the book so you can see what I'm talking about as we go. Okay, this is the Black Powder rules, the rule book. Now, first thing I want to show you is, yeah, it just talks about organizing your armies, and and getting your models put together and basing your figures and blah, blah, blah. That's going to be explained in the tutorial, but that's in every rule set. It tells you exactly how to base your figures and all that good junk. So that's not any different than any other game. You could probably pull figures from other games and put them in this game, like I did with my American War of Independence figures. They were based for British Grenadier, but I still used them in this game, and everybody had a good time. Okay, so this is the part of the game right here. Not the changing formations, not formations, but basically the command. Game rules. It's super easy. You can look here in the steps. There's only like 6 steps per turn. You make your command and you make your moves. You shoot, you melee, next turn. That's it, right? Command, move, shoot, melee. Next player, command, move, shoot, melee. Back to the top. So first of all, the turn sequence doesn't, like in Napoleon's battles. You have I have a chart, which is an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper. It has 2 columns, and it gives you the turn sequence. Do this, do this, do this, do this, do this, all the way down. And I don't need that bullshit. Okay, I'm just going to do turn 1, blue turn, red turn, blue turn, red turn, blue turn, red turn, right? Okay, perfect. Okay, you can pre-measure. If you want to know if you're within range, great. If you want to stop just out of range, great. You can do that. That's no problem. But right there, command and the orders system. This is what makes this game great. And I do mean great, not just good. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to give you a hypothetical scenario. The game is played with units, right? You have unit 1. The units can be considered companies, battalions, brigades, whatever you want to call them, but they are units. A block of figures that are tight together is a unit. Another block next to it is another unit. Another block next to it is another unit. And you count all those units in one larger unit, that's called a brigade. That brigade is commanded by a general. Okay, so you got your brigade general and his battalions. Okay, push that off to the side. Now you might have another brigade general and his battalions. Now you've got 2 brigades and with their brigade commanders. And then you have the overall general called the general. He would be your army general. So you got your army general, brigade commanders with their units in each brigade. That's how the armies are organized. Here comes the easiest rule ever. You want to move this unit over here. You roll 2 dice and you get less than the leadership of the general, it gets to move. Not hard. You go to the next unit. You want it to do something, change formation, or move, or whatever. You roll 2 dice. You get less than the command, but let's say you don't, you fail. It doesn't get to move. That brigade commander is done issuing orders. You go to the next brigade. You roll, I want to move this unit, roll the dice, you make the number, you move. Okay, now here's where it really gets good. Let's say that first unit, I wanted him to move as far forward as possible. I want to move as close to the enemy as possible. Okay? And you have to declare what you want to do first. Perfect. You roll 2 dice. You get less than your brigade, I think they call it staff rating. So you get less than his leadership. If you get equal to or less than by 1 point, you get 1 move. So he gets to move 12 inches. If you get 2 less, you get 2 moves. So he gets to move 24 inches. If you get 3 or more less, he gets to move 3 times. So that unit, if he rolls good enough, this unit could move 36 inches. I'm talking about infantry. Cavalry's even bigger. Cavalry's 18 inches per move. So do the math. 3 times 18. But let's say I got my infantry and I want to move 3 times. That's 36 inches, 3 feet. That's why you need a bigger table, right? A 4-foot table, you've already moved all the way across the table pretty much. With Cav, you have. So a 5-foot table that I use, or a 6-foot table might even be better, you move. Now let's say that he rolls for the next unit. And like I said before, he fails. So now he's done issuing orders. Well, guess what? You got your 2 units in the rear, haven't moved, didn't do anything, and this 1 unit is way out there 36 inches. Oops. That's awesome. I like the fact. Now, the general didn't have to do that. He could have said, just move 12 inches forward, roll, and if he got 3 moves, he would move 12 inches forward, right? And then if he failed on these guys, they would not. Or he could say, just move 24 inches, boop, and the next guy, just move 24 inches, boop, and then this guy goes, just move, go ahead and move 36. So you can give and take of how you move that unit. Now when I go to my 2nd brigade and I realize, man, that guy's way out there by himself, maybe this brigade needs to really cruise up there to try to help, and he rolls and gets his units up there, that's possible. Now there's another way you can move, and that's by brigade. So as long as your units are within 6 inches of each other, then you can move them all as one entity. That's pretty cool. But that's what I like. I like unlike in other games where all units get to move no matter what, you have total control over their movement, where you move them and how they move is totally under the rules of the game. In Black Powder, there's a risk. They might move, they might not move. So you don't always have command. And what that's kind of simulating is the fact that you don't have radios. You don't have a God's eye view where you're above a battlefield looking down at the troops. The generals and the men, the colonels, they have to decide if they're going to move or not based on the orders they've received by the overall commanders or their generals, and that might be delivered via messenger. The messenger might get lost, he might get killed, he might not have ever found the right unit, he might have given the orders to the wrong unit or something like that. So it's kind of like the fog of war, the imperfections of war. Nobody has GPS. They don't know where they're going. They don't have maps that are accurate, because who made accurate maps back in those days? That kind of stuff. All right, so that's the first reason why I like this game, is the command of your units is left to chance. I love that. Okay. Okay. Combat. Right? Now this applies to shooting and melee. We don't really even need to get into all that. But what it is, you're very familiar. If you do any miniature gaming, you've probably heard of Warhammer or Warhammer 40K. You've probably heard of the to hit roll and then the save roll, right? Well, this game is no different. It has a to hit roll and it's always the same. So that doesn't change. There's some modifiers, but it's pretty much always the same. So units, whether it's 15 or 28 or 100 models, it doesn't matter. The unit has a shooting value. You don't count figures like I've got 25 figures in that unit, so I roll 25 dice. No, I have a unit, and that a unit wants to shoot. I look at the value of that unit's shooting. It might be 3, because that's normal. So I roll 3 dice. If I had a 4 shooting, I would roll 4 dice. If I'm in a different formation that allows less shooting, then I would just roll the less shooting. Okay, so it's how many dice you roll by unit. So it doesn't matter how big or how small the unit is. Actually, it does kind of in the rules, but we won't get into all that. But normally you're rolling 3 dice per unit. You're looking for 4s or better. That's 50% chance. 50% chance of hitting. Easy, right? So you go 4 better, You roll a bunch of dice, you get 4s or better. Every hit is a hit, right? Now your opponent rolls a number of dice equal to how many times he's been hit, and he's rolling to save versus those hit. Now it's not an armor save, because, you know, bullets are going through all the armor. So it's not an armor save. Most of these guys aren't even wearing armor. It's what's called a morale save. And kind of the reasoning behind that is the models are not individual models. The models represent a group of guys. So like if I have a group of 24 models in a unit, it's not 24 men running across the field. It's hundreds of guys running across the field. So, or maybe even thousands, depending on the scale that you're playing in. So when you shoot and you do 3 hits, you don't actually kill 3 models. You just do 3 hits against their psyche, against their morale. So now when you're making your saves, you're trying to see how well they resist casualties. Because you're killing guys, it's just, do they react to that? I like that. I like that you're playing off the mental and not so much the physical. I like this. So I save 2 hits, let's say. So I take 1 hit. I don't pull a model off like a lot of games where the model is killed. What I do is I give them 1 morale hit onto them. And most units have a 3 morale. They call it stamina. It's how much they can resist the stress of combat, because it's all psyche. When they get to their stamina, which is usually 3, the unit becomes shaken. They're not destroyed. They become shaken, which basically means they're wavering. They don't know if they want to advance or if they want to shoot, or they're all confused, and some are running, some are cowering, some are shooting, some are not, some are fighting, some are not, that kind of stuff. So it basically means that unit is shaken psychologically. Okay, and that will happen from melee or from shooting. That's how you count the casualties, is towards stamina. Okay, if you take excessive hits in shooting over your stamina, then you have to make a break test to see if that unit is eliminated or falls back, right? Or just holds its ground or whatever. In melee, it's still all the same rules. But in melee, when you fight 2 combats, they both get to attack, and whoever did the most casualties that round is the winner. So if I did 3 and he did 2, I won by 1. And what that means is he has to make a break test with a -1. If he fails, he might fall back, he might be eliminated, whatever. But the break test happens. I love that. See how simple it was? It's not complicated. There are a few other rules. We're not getting into all the rules. That'll come out in the tutorial. But I just like the fact that it's super easy. You have a range on your muskets. 12 inches, 18 inches, whatever it is. That's what it is. So you just measure. If you're in range, roll the dice. If you're not in range, don't roll the dice. Super simple. Super, super, super simple. If you get within 6 inches of somebody, it's close range. You get a +1 to wound them. So instead of rolling 4s or better, now you can roll 3s or better. You know, that's super easy, super cool. There's modifiers for charging and for being victorious and stuff like that. But there's only like 5 modifiers. It's not many modifiers. It's like, was he attacked in the flank? Did he charge? Was he winning? Is he shaken? You know, that kind of stuff. There's not a whole lot of modifiers. Like it. Now, break tests. Break tests is a little bit different from shooting and from melee, but it's all in one chart and it's pretty darn simple. If you roll a 7 or more, you're pretty much good to go, and if you roll a 5 or less, you're eliminated. It's the 6 where you're falling back. Or you're, it's right. Cavalry has the ability to, when they win a combat, they can move on to another combat, a lot like Napoleon's battles. Then there's advanced rules about squares. They even have rules on machine guns. Now, that would probably be much later on the edge of these rules. You know, the very end of these rules would have machine guns, but they got howitzers and mortars and rockets, because, you know, they use rockets in Spain and in Waterloo, mostly Spain. Okay, generals have the ability to attach to units to benefit, you know, give those units benefits and stuff. Each type of unit has a special ability, a lot like Bolt Action, a lot like Hail Caesar. Things like he's brave, or he's elite, or he's a fanatic, crack, or bloodthirsty, or I don't know, valiant. That sounds good. Tough fighter, and the wording is very similar to Hail Caesar. So if you play one or the other, you'll recognize them. And here's the list of them. They're all right there, and what they do is right there. That's like super easy. It's a super chart. Okay. Your generals. Every general, if you want to, you can roll randomly to see if he's aggressive, or if he's passive, or if he's decisive, or something like that. And those give you bonuses or penalties. And how do you win? Okay. It's super easy. You don't know how easy this game is to learn, but there's a lot of nuances, and it's not a complicated set of rules. It's very, very far from complicated, but it has enough meat and potatoes in the game to make it interesting, and but not bogged down. And to win, all you pretty much have to do is destroy half the army. Once you've done that, you've won. I mean, there's some nuances and stuff, but that's pretty much it. Then it talks about the different genres. It gives you a bunch of scenarios from each time period and like how they played it. One thing I kind of disagree with in this set of rules, or these scenarios that they publish, and that's why I might reach out and design my own scenarios, or use scenarios from other games like British Grenadier or Napoleon's Battles or something like that. Well, not really Napoleon's Battles, because Napoleon's Battles usually is the grand tactical, and they haven't really focused on small battles. But I might look at some other scenarios, because they don't give you accurate figure sizes. Like the Freeman's Farm scenario, they said, this is what we used. We put these figures on the table because those were the figures we owned at the time. That's not really an accurate scenario, in my opinion. So you got to do a little research on the scenarios. You can play them straight out of the book. That's what we did, and we had a good time. But I don't think it was, it was just... There's Hangman's Creek. No. Yeah, you can play Wild West, probably. No, maybe not. Like, there's some pith helmets. That must be Zulus. And El Jeb. It should be El Cid, right? El Jeb, yeah. Reading it upside down. And they tell you how they played it. And then in the back they say if you want to use 54 millimeters, or if you want to use 6 millimeter figures, 20 millimeter figures, how you might adjust basing. And they even give you a point value system if you're friends and you want to buy armies based on points and just have hypothetical battles. You could do that as well. I don't think this game's not really designed to do it point value wise. And then it gives you a quick reference chart in the back. I wish this was a separate piece, but you can go to the website, download their quick reference chart, and just print it out PDF. And that's what I did when we played. And yeah, closing thoughts on the book. I'm going to give it an A+. I give it a thumbs up. I think that if you're into Black Powder period, Civil War, American War of Independence, Napoleonics, you know, I don't know, any of those periods, Jacobite battles, you know, anything that had muskets and stuff like that in it. What is it? French and Indian War. I'm throwing off some more. This is a great set of rules for that. I feel this is less complicated, believe it or not, less complicated than Hail Caesar. I think Hail Caesar, because 90% of the battles in Hail Caesar are hand-to-hand, they added a whole bunch of extra rules into their hand-to-hand to make it more interesting, because that's a period of fighting in hand-to-hand. Where this is a musket game, and so the majority of the rules are talking about muskets and cannons, as opposed to, you know, like slings and arrows and bows and Hail Caesar. But other than that, I feel that this game is a little bit more streamlined than Hail Caesar, in my opinion. We're putting together probably the Quatre Bras scenario to play down at NashCon. So if you're interested and you want to come to NashCon and see us play, or if you want to play in the game, you're more than welcome to do that. If you do, let me know that you've seen my tutorial video or my review videos on Black Powder, because that'll get me motivated to do more videos. Okay, guys? All right, so that's it. The next video I'm going to do is going to be on the Albion Triumphant book. That's where we got the Quatre Bras scenario from, and I'm going to talk about a little bit about that book as we go. Catch you next time.